We're familiar with the concept of family businesses and the dynamics of working within them. However, envision being a young woman navigating the intricacies of a family business that involves not just colleagues, but your own parents and siblings. How does a young woman carve out her own space within a family enterprise, especially when it revolves around sustainable farming and food solutions in a close-knit community where nearly everyone knows everyone else? Hello and welcome to Season 7 of the Womanpreneur Asia podcast, and I'm your host, Chris Sekun. My mission is to uncover the stories and strategies of Asian women entrepreneurs in Asia to inspire you as you navigate your own business journey. This episode is sponsored by Redbox Studio. Today I'm speaking to a Malaysian entrepreneur, Hana Chua of Kebun Kota in Kuantan, Pahang. Hana's story is about a young woman navigating the intricate terrain of a family business rooted in sustainability. As the Director of Business Finance at Kebun Kota, Hana is not only involved in cultivating smart urban farming, but also reshaping the local cafe scene with a firm commitment to sustainable living and sustainable eating. Hana shares her insights on overcoming the challenges of being perceived as the boss's daughter, the importance of family as her inspiration, and the delicate balance between entrepreneurship and personal growth. And as we uncover the layers of her multifaceted life, we find out how Roots, a cafe that started as a haven for book lovers, became a platform for sparking essential conversations about sustainability, nutrition, and rediscovering local delicacies. Onwards to Hana's delightful story. Hello, Hana. Welcome to Womenpreneur Asia.
Hello. I'm excited to be here.
So, Hana, you are in a very interesting business. But before we get into that, where are you physically located right now?
I am currently in Kuantan, Pahang, the east coast of Malaysia. At this current moment, I'm in my room after a long day of work. So, excited to be here.
Okay. So this is a good time to get into why are you working on a Saturday and what is work all about?
Okay, why am I working on a Saturday? I help my parents with several of their companies and their businesses, and among them is Roots, which is cafe, as well as a platform for marketing for sustainable local goods. So on Saturday, normally the first half of the day, we do have like the corporate section of my other business that we do have debriefs on Saturday and make sure that people go through their week and we go through progress and all the other nitty-gritty corporate things. And then the other half of the day is when my sister and I, Sarah, we check in on Roots and we check in on like, how did we perform today? Do we want to get out new things next week? What kind of marketing are we going to do next week? Is there anything cooking up in the lab? Because my sister bakes and she cooks for the cafe. So it's more of the fun part and the creative part on the other section of the day. And I quite enjoy actually working on a Saturday because I get to mingle with people that are out of school and out of the office, so it's more of a crowd that gives the energy to like, oh, there's so many people are out and about. It gets quite inspiring actually to work on a Saturday for me personally.
This is also interesting because you're a young woman in a family business.
Yes.
And was it a conscious choice? And how do you get into the business? Or was it something that your parents told you, so Hana, when you graduate, we want you to come back into the business, or we want you to help out in the business? So how did that story unfold?
It was a bit of both. I think from a very young age, I was groomed to work in the family. And sometimes people take groomed in a very negative connotation. Not for me. The things that my parents do, they very much think about the family and about our interests and passions, and then they evolve and develop it from that. Obviously, we do have like things that are more technical that we had to learn from my parents. From a very young age, I had a huge investment of time and interest in what my parents did, just because they opened that line of communication for us to participate since we were very young. And when I say young, about 9, 10, in very, very simple things like, please help me highlight this date to this document, So in very simple acts, they would kind of teach us about adulthood and the working life. At the same time, my parents did very much encourage me to be curious and keen to learn about various other things outside of work and outside of our passions and outside of our current interests. I am very, very passionate and excited when I get to learn about new things, and I enjoy being in school. I enjoy being in perpetually new environments. So I think that is a personal thing that is innate in me, as well as like an external nurture that my parents enforced in the household as well. So it's a bit of both. But in terms of choice, I did choose to stay and work with my family, very much so.
So what was your background when you joined your business?
I have been working with the family companies, I think, since I was 15. Every break or public holiday, and Malaysia has so many, my parents would put us to projects. They would tell us, okay, you get to have fun in this section of the day, but the other section of the day, you're going to help me look through this. At first, obviously, for a child and for a teen, it was very irritating. But I grew to love it, and I grew to appreciate it, and I now know that I have no regrets doing it since a very young age. So the background is I grew up with the family companies, especially with my 2 older brothers. They were very much in the work as well, so I assisted them. It was not very corporate. It was very family. Like, my dad would be typing around in his computer and be like, okay, come and let me show you how to use Excel, or things like that. And then we slowly kind of progressed into help me make this document or help me make this decision. When I graduated 3 years ago, then I think I already established a very strong and stable knowledge of the companies and where we were and where we are now. And therefore, I could actively participate in decision making. Like, at first, it would, because there are many tiers to the company, and there are many, obviously, each business revenue, its associated risks. So we'd always start with the smallest risk first, so like, what do you choose to put on the menu? And then it tiered up to, okay, these are the financial decisions that we would make, together.
So can you describe a little bit of what you do? Because I know there's the farm and I know there's the cafe. So do you take part in both, or is your domain the cafe and the menu and the products?
So the company that I'll be speaking about with you today is Kebun Kota. And Kebun Kota, I would say, is a platform of smart urban farming technology. So we started out as farmers and aquaculturists, where we grew and we were the suppliers, and we were really like getting in deep with growing and everything. And I think as time progressed and we gained more knowledge, we went into research and also contract work of building things. And then as that progressed, we went into product manufacturing. And then after that, only Roots came about, of where we created this physical marketing arm where we could gather like-minded people. And my mom and I thought about this at my university campus. It's funny because this is most of how our kind of spin-off businesses or companies happen. My mom and I were very adamant because at the time, Kuantan was lacking a cafe that had books. I very fortunately had a good 6 years of my teen life in London. And I would say a big part of my personality and my urge to want to learn is from growing up there as well. So we wanted to start, let's start a place. The idea was, let's start a place where we can have all the books that we want in that place and also have coffee because we love it. We went into it thinking that it would be a platform where we could showcase all the things that we've learned, meet people of like-mindedness, and discuss things that we want to discuss. And then it just spun off into a cafe because my sister is so very talented in baking and in making coffee. And that is also not because she went for a course. She just was so interested in it. And I remember the first product that we did for the cafe was my sister's cookies that are very famous now. And it was just a very like spontaneous thing. It was a midnight and I was like, we were eating the cookie. We were like, oh my God, this would be great to sell. And we just drafted something up. And my mom was like, oh, the next day is on
the menu.
The menu and things. And so it's kind of like, we like to say we tembak. We always tembak first and see whether it works out and it pans out. And it did. So yeah, that's how it spun about. But Kebun Kota is bigger than that. We do have a management side where we do a lot of R&D research with the government and private sectors and do a lot of transfer of technology and information with international universities. So I think the onset is always about education and knowledge about specifically food and water nexus type problems. But roots, being its face, is great because people tend to just come in, obviously, with the initial hit of wanting to, let's go to the cafe. But they go in and they see, we're always there. So they see us loitering around and they see all this. We always have funny things, funny conversations happening with funny people. And people just start to gain interest from that. And that's the main goal of why we started Roots about 3 years ago now.
So it sounds like a very happening place, this Roots. Can I call it a community cafe? Is it a community cafe or is it a... Yeah, because it's a face, right? It's a face for all your products and different things you're experimenting.
To us, we would say, yes, it's very happening because it's basically just a bunch of our friends coming to visit us from everywhere, from around the world, dropping by and catching up with us and collaborating with us and networking with us. And they bring their friends, it's like a commune. It's just colleagues and people from universities or people from past work experiences that they come and gather with us, and then they bring their families and their families tell their other. So it just grows like that. So we never came in with the intention of wanting to be a F&B provider. It's just by luck people liked it. My mom is a fantastic cook. We've always told her that. My sister is a fantastic baker. So it just hit without us intending it to hit, But obviously, as more and more similar business grows around us, we're wanting to shift that narrative as well and follow the flow of how we can keep ourselves niche to what we originally sought out to do, which is bring people together to talk about these important issues that we want to talk about, and just to set simple examples that we can and are able to set,
Any examples from that? Any examples from that?
The most common thing that everyone does, regardless of any income, household, or social class, you eat. It's your eating etiquette. And eating etiquette is something so related to sustainability as people talk about food security, water security, and microplastics and things like that. And that's everything that you have on your table when you eat together, either together as a family or solo, So I think eating etiquette is something that is also so innate in Malaysian culture that brings into other things about sustainability that people tend to forget, which is nutrition and sustainable diets and localizing what we what we used to enjoy traditionally instead of importing. So it's all these ideas just from having that plate of rice or having that bowl of soup. Where does it come from? How did you bake it? By who? Where did you put it into this bowl? Why don't you use tissues? Don't you have plastic straws? Why don't you have Milo? All these things is because it's all these ideas about tradition, about sustainability, and about localizing things that we see in trends of like salads. We don't really grow salads in Malaysia. We grow ulam, especially people my age. Just don't go around, let's have a ulam thing. Because we're next to a gym. And I love the gym community. I'm part of the gym community. But when you talk about weight loss or fitness, it's always about eating salads and your milkshakes and those are the things that, yes, it's ready and available, very much so, but it's not localized and it's really expensive. Like vegetables are really expensive. Like cherry tomatoes or avocados, all these salads that normally people eat are just incredibly expensive, especially in the East Coast, in Kuantan, where we're not like capital city Kuala Lumpur that has mega Jaya grocer that has everything. We don't really have that, and I think people just people crave for that, whereas we have a lot of other things that we have here. It's not trendy or it's not popularized and talk about.
I know that what you all do is you try to bring a lot of local ingredients, right, into your menu. Put a lot of locally grown, locally made products.
Yes.
Did you all start with that intention from day one?
We started with that intention since day one. I think our biggest hit in terms of our menu is our roots or shoots nasi ulam, where I used to have this growing up. My mom would just pluck random herbs. Don't ask me any questions about herbs, wrong person. But she would just pluck random herbs, chop it up. Half cup of it is herbs, the other 50% is rice. And then it's fantastic. It's fantastic. And I think people tend to really drill into the idea that everything is locally grown, locally made, and obviously not. I mean, we're not trying to say that we're 100 or nothing, It's the thought of the intention of what we want to do is we want to try to prioritize localizing most of the things. Obviously, chocolate chip cookies is not local. We know that. But we want to see whether people can always prioritize or have the intention to think about localizing things. Like our chocolate chip cookies, the chocolate is Barrels, which is Malaysian, and the flour is the Pungan. It's all these things that it's more of the intention and thought that you put into it rather than this is not 100%. That defeats the point then, because nothing is ever 100%. Perfect. That's why we have globalization. But at the same time, we want to cut back on the over dependency we have on these external things that we now have normalized in our current modern life.
So we're talking about your business. So one of the things that I really want to ask any entrepreneur is when you first joined the business, when you were first in the business, were there some challenges and setbacks or obstacles that you had to face as a young entrepreneur and a young woman entrepreneur at that?
I think for me the key challenge that I faced was communication. And I say this very honestly and transparently to everyone I meet, is when I'm very lucky to have studied abroad, and a large part of my personality came abroad as well, about my adult personality. But when I came back, I think culturally, in terms of that communication skill, I selfishly had forgotten. So I think the first part of the challenge for me was coming back and making sure that I understand stakeholder management and speak the languages that people understood. That's how you get a point across, is don't make another person uncomfortable just because you refuse to speak their language. I think that was the first key realization and thing that I had, the weakness in me that I had to overcome, was to relearn these cultural languages, body languages, and etiquettes that come to speaking to people that are of many races, many religions, and many tiers in society. And that really, I think people tend to forget or people tend to make it a taboo subject of talking about like income class, social class, But it's very much important for us to understand that in terms of, communicating our idea that then forms that network or collaboration, willing network to then build that idea or that business avenue in a very sustainable and long-term manner. That was one of the key things about coming back, was relearning that particular cultural gap that I lost. I forgot. I think that was
because you were abroad for so long, right?
Yeah, I was abroad for so long. I think aside from language, I think I was very used to the processes of the local institutions that were in London. But I had to come back to the local and figure out and acclimatize myself to the local strength and weakness. And from that, how I can communicate in a way that people could hear me. Because I couldn't communicate my idea because first, cultural barrier that I set up for myself because I was away for so long. And second is because I'm a woman and I'm young. No one wanted to listen to me at the start because I was a woman, I was young. Okay. And the third is because I was working for my parents. So I think people had the natural connotation that I am dumb, or I was given everything.
You're the boss's daughter, right?
Yeah. So that connotation of she doesn't really work. She's just a face of nepotism, of like hereditary, inherited role. One of the things I had to really get that across was I work. Actually do the work. And I'm not a foreigner in my own country just because I was abroad. So I think one of the things that many of my friends and I share when I was in university, I was friends with a lot of foreigners as well, is once you leave your country, you're a foreigner in every country, even your own, because you've left the country. You're a foreigner here because you've been away for so long, and you're an actual foreigner in that foreign country. I've learned to identify how to adapt quite quickly because of that stereotype that people have.
Coming back to the first point, you were saying that you had to learn how to communicate properly with the stakeholders when you joined the business, right?
Yeah.
And you have to understand that. So was it self-realization, or was it something that perhaps someone in your family told you like you have to improve? Or was it like suddenly you realized, I think it's my problem?
Yeah, no, it was both. I think my parents are very honest with me all the time, and sometimes is that blunt honesty is the thing that I need to just like get myself out of my head. And it was my father. My father was like, "You're not white. You have to speak Bahasa Melayu, and you have to learn your Mandarin again, okay? And you have to learn your Cantonese, and because you're Hokkien, you have to learn your Hokkien also." So take it seriously, because people won't respect you if you don't respect them. That's my dad. My dad has always had great respect for people of different tiers, different races, different classes. And he tries his very best to incorporate himself in other people's culture. He'll be very much, although obviously he's an old man now, he doesn't really care about intricacies in language, but he'll very much tell me, "Cakaplah bahasa Melayu, diorang tak faham." I was like, okay, I will, translate. My dad in that department, and my mom as well, but she's more gentle. She's like, "I think you should really think about," my mom would always my mom is more so teaching me about my body language when I deal with certain people and I talk to certain people, just so that you can have a free flow of conversation that is, comfortable, So I think it's both. It's both.
It's also interesting for people who don't, because I know you, right? So I know you're a product of an interracial marriage. That your father is originally, he's what, Chinese Hokkien?
Yes, he is Chinese Hokkien.
And your mom is Malay.
My mom,
right?
Yes, my mom is Malay and partly Indian as well, from Terengganu.
Yeah, so really there's this lovely combination of two different cultures. Plus the fact that
I get to celebrate all holidays. I love it. All public holidays I can participate.
And the fact that you also were at school abroad and then you came back, and then you're doing as a second generation. Can I call it second generation? Who's really taking over the business, right? So these are all the different complexities while running a business, while being part of the family, network and community that you are in Kuantan, Pahang.
Yeah.
So besides the obstacles and setbacks, okay, let's look at the benefits. What are the benefits of being in such a ecosystem, if I may call it that?
One of the things that I really greatly appreciate is that I'm able to dictate what I want to do or the projects that I want to do. And I'm able to dictate my team and choose the people that are going to work with me and dictate direction of where I think or where I propose the companies or the businesses to go to. I think that freedom of voice and of opinion is something that my parents have greatly bestowed upon me to participate in, and I'm very grateful for that, because I feel there's never a boring day. Obviously, it's every day is very overwhelming. Like every few minutes, someone will be talking to me and asking me about something or other, but it's never boring. And it's never mundane and scheduled. Which I think from a very young age, I never wanted to participate. Even if I didn't choose to join my family business, I think I would have gone somewhere where it offered the same of freedom of bouncing of ideas and discussion and conversation. And it's very I would not say on the go, but very upbeat in oh my God, we have to do this, So I'm very grateful that I'm able to control that situation and voice out, this is not right. I think we should do this, or I read about this yesterday. I believe this would be a great idea if we want to try to implement this in probably 3 months or things like that. My opinions matter in this circumstance. And I know that my peers are not in that same privilege that I do, and I recognize that, and I'm very grateful for that. Yeah.
Would it have been different if you went out and worked for, just say, another company before you came into this family business? Would things have been different?
Before I came back, I did work outside of my family business. And I think my attitude towards working with other people was the same in my family business, in a way of I'm very structured, organized, and very loud in my opinions. And I'm very clear in telling people that being assertive is something that I've always had. But I think it would have been harder, I would say, if I had done it in that sequence. I'm also not saying that I would be in this ecosystem forever. I think my parents also give me that freedom of allowing myself to jump in and out, but be responsible about things that you have started, finish it. That's what I'm trying to say. But I think the sequence, if I had done outside first and then come in, I think it would have been harder because, again, time is on my side. And to have broken that chronology of events, I think would have made it even harder for me to dive back into the culture, figure out what I want to do, figure out where I want to go, figure out who I want to work with, figure out how I want to do it, So I think it would have been harder, but I would say I feel like I would have had a much larger network of people that could have assisted me in that process. Yeah, so I think that's the two sides to it.
But that's a very interesting observation that you made there, right? I mean, you can see the pros and cons of being in either situation. One is if you worked longer at your previous job, you would have a larger network. But now you have a lot more, I would say, independence and autonomy in doing or creating what you want to create for Kebun Kota.
Yeah.
In all the projects that you're doing. So is there any specific project or particular project that right now you're working on that you're excited about?
The one project that I'm always excited about, different projects I'm doing. The one thing that I was excited about and was being the past tense because it's coming to an end is a project called Biru Mas, where we are working with CASA, Kementerian Alam Sekitar, previously called that, I don't remember what it's called now, and IWK, our collaborative partner, where we are looking at water reclamation and upcycling treated bioeffluent to grow food and further increasing its quality of the treated bioeffluent so that it can be used for non-potable water sources. So that is something that I have been very excited about and have been very focused in completing, and we have successfully, alhamdulillah, to complete. It was a journey. Oh my God, was it a journey? But
can you describe a bit of the journey?
I'm very glad that I have people, team members with me that are willing to share my interest and passion, to share my crazy obsessions sometimes, and to lead me together, to lead us together through this, because I think going into it, I was very naive of real world circumstances and, communicational breakdowns was the challenges that we faced throughout this. But one of the beautiful things that came out of it was we actually created this system, and we actually created and produced things for people. And what we designed on paper, actually happened. And people that are just the most incredible people take notice of this. And it's amazing, these are the pros and cons throughout this journey, but it was a journey. Both the bad and the good and the exciting and the terrible was exhausting. It was very exhausting for me to emotionally regulate, but it was incredible. I do want to continue doing this type of R&D projects in the future and moving forward. And I have a couple in up my sleeves, but it was very eye-opening, both in a good and bad way. Yeah.
How long did that project take you?
That project took 3 years of my life. We started the inception of it when I graduated, 2020, and we ended about 2 months ago, 2023. Yeah, the inception of the idea, the proposing of the idea, the marketing of the idea, the getting the funding of the idea, the design and the build of the idea, the operation, and the final part of the writing and reporting was 3 years. And one of my naivetes is I was going into it thinking it'll be done 6 months. It'll be quick, like we hand in a university submission. It'll be quick,
like a term paper, right?
Yeah, but oh my god, was it a long process? But I learned and I grew so much from it. I feel like if myself now spoke to 2020 Hana, it would be a different person completely, a different chapter, I would say. And I'm very grateful I got to go through these chapters.
And you were there throughout the entire 3 years.
Yes,
right?
I was there throughout the entire 3 years. I do fly back and forth for work in from London and other places, but it's very much something that is part of me, so every time, not a single decision was made without me being there, so I did throughout the whole thing. It was great. It's great.
So at the end, this system that you created and built, it was supposed to do something for the community or create some source of revenue or something like for the other stakeholders?
It was supposed. It's both. It's supposed to be both, in which it creates this community garden and these food stores for the local B40 community, the 72 units neighbors that we are working with, and yes, a form of revenue both for Kebun Kota, where we wanted to showcase this water reclamation project as a project of R&D and showing our R&D capacities in and of itself, as well as the products that we manufactured from this system direct. So it's both, but primarily when we started it, we were more thinking about now was an abandoned playground that was really riddled with just drugs and alcohol and just unsavory characters, and it was just dengue, and it was dirty, and it was stinky, it was bad, and it was next to our farm. So I think we are very close with the community that stays next to our farm, and the uncles and aunties are not afraid to tell us what they want. So from the get-go, when we wanted to do something that was grand, and that served the purpose, the community thought that we were buying over or taking over the land because we wanted to contribute in a grand manner. So that was our first challenge of saying, no, we are not. This is also for you. We are doing this together, and it's very successful in the terms that we did get a lot of local community participation in this matter and this project, and it's been very exciting, very fun.
So I see that there's a community slant in all the work, or at least what I know of what Kebun Kota does is that it really puts a lot of its heart and soul into rejuvenating the local places, people, trying to bring different people together to do different things. So what's your next project, since that has just effectively ended in a good way?
We still want to focus on matters of food and water, and we're still building an idea that unfortunately I cannot share yet. But yes, it will be another R&D project, and people can be excited in seeing a different type of roots, maybe a change of scenery in roots, and a change in how and what we want to showcase in roots and Kebun Kota.
If someone is listening to us, right, to this conversation that we're having, and the person is very interested in sustainability and the work that you do in food security, how could that person join you? How could that person participate in your activities or in your projects? Is there any way for them to do so?
We like to see people, and talk to people physically. So if people are able to and have the time, please drop by to Roots Kebun Kota. It is You can Google it, Roots by Kebun Kota Cafe. It's in
And you're pretty popular, so you
Yeah.
definitely find your cafe.
Yeah, or our Instagram at roots_Kebun Kota. People message us a lot on there, and people also tend to just drop by and you can come ask people to say, I want to speak to Hana, and I'll come. I'm there every day. I'm there in the office at the second floor every day. So yeah, I think that's how you can reach out to us. We don't really have a huge social media presence yet, and that will come. Many creative projects that we want to showcase soon. But yeah, drop by, come see us, come have a chat, have a coffee.
So if anyone wants to do anything to do with sustainability, being part of, I would say, a movement, because these days more and more people are really interested in doing something for their community, doing something right for Mother Earth. So yeah, so definitely reach out to Hana. Since you've been in business for the past 3 years and working on various initiatives and projects, what valuable lessons have you learned about yourself?
I think strength-wise, I'm very resilient. When I start something, I want to finish it. I have to finish it. So whatever that you throw at me, I will figure it out and I will bulldoze through it and so that I can finish it. I think that is one of the things that I've learned about myself. And I think another thing in terms of strength is whatever you pass to me, if you give me some time to really read into it, Google it, educate myself in it, I probably can help you do it. I love that. I think my ability to because I'm just so interested in what people do. Another word is kepo. I really am kepo at what you want to do. So I will learn it so that I can just tell you probably not the right thing to do. I'm that irritating character. Weaknesses is probably my delegation. Some people might roll their eyes at this. I fixate so much on work that I don't really spend the time to, have a personal life and socialize. And I think that builds up an unwanted amount of stress that I could have just really resolved if I allowed myself to take a break, and take a step back and not be so uptight and try to control everything till the very end. So I think I'm trying very best to just let things, c'est la vie, whatever goes and happens. I've tried my best. It is up to the Almighty to figure out whether I deserve this or don't, So I am trying to take a step back, take a breather, and also try to, go see my friends more and do personal things and spend time with my sister and my brothers, go see my niece, So I want to do that more as I progress. Get that. I think work-life balance is the thing that people are talking about and drilling into my brain. But I enjoy my work. I really do. But I know that I just get too into it that I don't sleep, I don't, so it's all these like self-care things I need to really train myself to also incorporate.
I know you enjoy the business a lot, so I guess this is the problem with most or many entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
Because the business is the passion, the hobby.
Yes.
And it consumes you because every day you could not be in the office, but you could still be thinking about that business solution, that business service or offering that you want to do, right? Or want to create for your clients. So let's switch a little bit to the personal side of things. When you have some time for yourself, what do you choose to do?
I choose to sleep. I'll be very honest. When my sister and I, Sarah, my younger sister, we tend to share the same schedule because we are in the same work ecosystem. So when we have free time, we really enjoy hanging out with each other. It's either doing really, really zero brain power mundane things. Going grocery shopping, hair treatment on our hair, DIY hair treatment, bake, all this. Watch a movie with my dad at home. I enjoy just doing absolutely nothing. And if I have energy of excited, upbeat energy, I'll FaceTime my friends. It's still surrounded in these four walls of my personal time. I really I'm so happy with being with my family and at home. I really, really just enjoy that. Read a book. I enjoy reading. I just don't have time to do it anymore.
What are you no longer afraid of?
What am I no longer afraid of? That's a huge therapy session right there. I'm no longer afraid of change. I'm quite confident that I am able to withstand or go through anything that is new.
And what is the craziest thing you've ever done?
I took a personal trip and didn't tell my parents until the day I was going. I was like, I'm stressed out. Bye. And then I left and I went. And it wasn't really far. I didn't fly anywhere. I really just took a road trip up to Penang. Spent 5 days. Yeah, I spent 5 days. My friend is currently staying. I spent 5 days. My dad, obviously, I'm the first daughter. My dad has a very protective grip on me. I said, I'm going to a road trip. I'm already in the car. Bye. So I left. That was the craziest thing. I think one of the things I'm trying to do is expose my dad. I'll be okay. I'll be back. I'll be okay. Don't worry. So that's crazy. To me, that's crazy. Yeah.
Actually, that is cool, because to do a road trip on your own, that is quite liberating.
Yeah, I didn't do anything crazy. People would think I went to the hills. I went to the beach and sat in a lawn chair for a long time. I made a dog friend. I went eating every 5-10 minutes. I was eating. It was great. I had a book with me. It was nice. I enjoyed it. It was sometimes I think my family does know that I need just complete silence and just myself. Do things with myself. Yeah.
From how you describe it, I assume your family must be really everyone's talking, everyone's having conversation.
Yeah, we're very involved in each other's lives. My mom made a very important rule when we were younger is every dinner time you must sit in the table and sit together and eat together and talk about things. Obviously now it's all about work. So we're trying to cut back about that and talk about other things. So we are very involved in each other's lives and we talk to each other, about everything and anything. And I still live in my family home with my 3 younger siblings, including myself, 3, because we currently all work in the same context. I see my parents and my siblings every day.
Every hour.
The moment I open my eyes until I go to sleep. Every day. 99% of the time. I love it. I cannot be more appreciative of how I can do that, But that 1% of the time I need to go, I want to go. Yeah.
You need to have your own me time.
Yeah, I need to. I'm going to go. that is that 1%. 1%.
Is there something that people don't know about you?
Because I grew up learning business things. I tend to talk in lists. I tend to go to solve this problem. Conversation with my friends. Oh, you're going to this. Number 1, you should probably number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. There's 5 items of this. Have you finished all 5? So I think people get irritated when I list out everything so categorically. It just gives me some sense of calm when I know there are 8 steps. I'm on step 5, and that annoys my sister because I tend to talk to her that way as well. Like, no problem we can't solve. Number 1, this is probably what you should do. Number 2, so at the end, 10 steps, we can do this, So I'm very like, that is one of the unusual, I would say, and irritating things that I do is I list things and I categorize them. Even in normal conversations, it is quite irritating.
That is
even
quite
for me
unusual.
sometimes. Yeah, even for me sometimes, I have to stop. He's only asking us about what dinner plans we're having. I have to stop. I have to just relax about this. Because I go, number 1, have you figured out the place? Number 2, time. Number 3, we probably have 4 options about what. It's really irritating, even to me sometimes. So I'm like, okay, I got to relax about this. Yeah, I'm a planner. I have to have things planned. But this is also something unusual is if it's on holiday, if I'm on holiday or if I'm like abroad seeing my friends, no need a plan. Whatever you want to do, we can do. I don't really care. No one come to me for decisions. But if my mind is not set on that, I will be the one to go, okay, this is number 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
So it depends on what mode you are in.
Yeah, what mode I'm in. Normally when I'm with my friends from like university, I make no decisions. It is the best. But when they do ask me to plan, they know I've got a plan. It's 100% foolproof. Plan. Yes, foolproof plan.
And there's probably a plan behind the plan.
Oh, I have A to Z insurances, contingencies for everything. It is. It's so irritating, but it's something that it brings me a sense of peace because I know people would just get so upset at each other if we don't communicate all this really clearly. And the only thing that in my mind is, this is justifying my insanity, is lists, So there's just clear 5 things that you have to do. Don't worry. It's a soft yes, hard yes, soft no. There's scales to my nose and yes. It's incredible. But there you go.
Okay, so you see, I dug on an unusual habit of yours. What advice or recommendations would you give to someone who's listening, who's also in a business, in their family business, and who's also young? Because as we all know, there's always these different generations, right? There's Gen X, and then there's the millennials, and then of course there are so many other categories. So every category of people would not be able to see eye to eye with the other generation. And here you are in your family business, and you work with your sister, you work with your mom, you work with your dad, and of course with other stakeholders around you who are of different ages. So what advice or what recommendations would you offer someone who's in a situation like you?
I would say, again, my lists, 2 things. I think patience and communication, both within yourself and for other people. I think I really had to learn patience for other people and for myself, to learn patience for myself, to allow myself to be confused, to feel lost, to have an identity crisis, to not be able to do things fast enough. Be patient with yourself, I think. And the second one would be communication. We have to all learn how to communicate in a way that both parties understand. That relates to understanding and empathy and some degree of emotional intelligence, where you have to learn how to communicate with other people in a way that they understand and they appreciate and that respects their boundaries, as well as be able to communicate with yourself in terms of understanding when you feel overwhelmed and talk yourself out of it, or when you feel within the context of my family, especially my sister and I and my brothers, that are put into a very unusual situation. We have to deal with it through patience and communication, with each other, with ourselves, and with whoever that we are, dealing with at the moment. Yeah, so those are the two things I would say.
It's great, because I think that's also one of the biggest problems, right? Working with different generations in a family business.
Nothing gets solved in a day. And I've learned that I have to really be patient and understand that people don't think like me, and I don't think like people, and that's fine. Sometimes I think the generational issue is, people don't trust that the younger generation know what they're doing. But the flip side of it is you don't put trust in us to be able to show you what we can do.
This is something that we don't talk enough about, right? About being second generation in a family business.
Yes.
And I understand that you are really fortunate because the way your parents brought you up, the way you've been imbued with the right kinds of thinking and thought process, and even your list, right? I'm sure you learned that somewhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah, okay. My dad and my mom
are very technical, right?
Both very technical people. My mom is an architect. She needs things in very coordinated, color-coded boxes. My dad is an engineer, so if you don't know how to use Excel, don't talk to him. He is a man of lists. He is a man of dates. So I grew up in that organized structure that I found peace in. I really learned that this is how I like to do things. Doesn't mean that you have to do it the same as I do, but this is how I like to do things and how I like to communicate my ideas, my thoughts.
What you do right now is also because your parents have given you also the freedom, I guess. So it's a very interesting topic to dig into, because we always hear of the negative parts, right? Of working in family business, of being, always in conflict with your parents. But yours is different because your parents actually have given you that space to explore and grow. And I think that part itself, if we could see more and more family businesses where it's a lot more openness, transparency, and how people talk to each other and how you learn from the elders in the business versus trying to fight them half the time. I think that would be a great way to run family businesses, right?
Yeah. I'm given the freedom to be able to communicate in a way that I'm comfortable with. So I think that is one of the privileges I have. And I don't discount it at all.
Finally, where can people find you online?
I don't really, I'm not really on social media, but if you want to hit me up, go to Instagram, type in @roots_Kebun Kota.
Hana's story is still unfolding as her entrepreneurship journey has just begun, and I know amazing things are in store for this young entrepreneur. From her childhood in a diverse interracial family to her return from London, where she had to relearn the local nuances. Hana's journey is a tapestry of resilience, adaptability, and a relentless pursuit of her space within the family legacy. Being perceived as the boss's daughter didn't deter her. Instead, it fueled her determination to be heard and respected. As a young woman in a family business, it's fascinating to discover how she retains her own individuality within the family business even as she works on educating the community about sustainable living and sustainable eating. I love how Hana looks up to her family as the bedrock of inspiration, and for the right reasons too. The Chua family's dedication to sustainable farming and smart urban agriculture isn't just a business. It's a mission to create positive change. The interplay between family values and business principles is an extraordinary example of how business and professional aspirations can align for a greater purpose. If you found today's episode inspiring, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us, and it helps others discover the inspiring Asian women's stories shared on Womenpreneur Asia. Remember to get the full show notes and links when you visit womenpreneurasia.com. You've been listening to Season 7 of the Womenpreneur Asia podcast, and I will see you next Friday for another brand new episode.